shortage of challenges facing leaders today. Leading teams remotely could possibly be the most challenging. COVID-19 has accelerated the transition to a hybrid model of working, but what does it mean? And what impact will it have on businesses now and post the pandemic? For most organizations, the introduction of hybrid working will require a significant culture shift and establishing new ways of working and practices. Hybrid will make greater demands of managers and organizations than the shift to total remote working. Do our leaders still have the relevant skills to cope with this challenge? Do we need reskilling, upskilling, or do the attributes that make good leaders need to be reviewed? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Farah, and as the KZN Provincial Chair, I would like to welcome everyone to this Leadership Masterclass session. Join us as Charlotte Mokoena and Professor Cecile Gerwel-Proces help us unpack these challenges and offer us their guidance in overcoming them. To our panelists, thank you for your time and your contributions to our programs. It is always a pleasure. And these two ladies need no introduction, but I will briefly go through their bios. As Executive Vice President for Human Resources and Corporate Affairs, Charlotte Mokoena has global responsibility for SASOL's Human Resources and Corporate Affairs functions. She was appointed to SASOL's Group Executive Committee on the 1st of February 2017. Charlotte holds a postgraduate diploma from Leicester University in the United Kingdom, an honors degree in human resources development, and a BA degree in social sciences. In addition, she has attended numerous executive development programs at prestigious business schools, including the International Institute for Management Development in Lucerne, Switzerland, and the United States-based University of Michigan Business School. She is also a qualified nurse. Professor Cecile Gerwel-Proces is an academic in the Graduate School of Business and Leadership at UKZN. She holds a PhD in Leadership Studies, MCOM in Leadership Studies, BCom Honours Industrial and Organizational Psychology, and BCom majoring in Business Management and Industrial and Organizational Psychology. Welcome to the ladies. Prof, welcome. Thank you so much for your time once again. So Prof is going to lead us in the discussion, and Charlotte is going to join us shortly. Thank you once again, Prof.
Thank you, Farah, and good afternoon to everybody, and thank you for joining us all in this very relevant discussion that probably affects all of us. And we find ourselves in this phase of extreme disruption where our working lives are affected and various aspects of our lives. So we will start with a short video that I want to show you about the context, basically to set the scene in terms of how the pandemic has affected our working lives. And I'll show you another one after that, and then we'll do some sort of exercise whereby we determine where the group is at. So if you just give me a few seconds just to get the video, and then I'll start sharing. Just, excuse me, 1 second. Okay, if anybody is not able to see it, please let me know, or if you can't hear it.
The way we work, how, where, and with who we do it is changing faster than ever before. This is especially true in the wake of COVID-19. Nearly half of employees will work remotely after the pandemic, compared to 30% before. Simply put, this is a transformative moment in the future of work. How fast and how strategically companies adapt to it will determine whether or not they thrive. But what can they do? First, consider how flexibility fuels employee performance. The pandemic broke the 9-to-5 on-site work paradigm. When employees are given radical flexibility over where, when, and how much they work, more than half report high performance versus 36% of the 9-to-5ers. Executives must also consider demographics. For the first time, 5 generations are working together, The arrival of Gen Zers will accelerate demands like flexible work schedules and location. Finally, keep automation in mind. By 2024, nearly 70% of what a manager does will be automated. And while many simple jobs will be eliminated by automation, other jobs that require creativity, empathy, and judgment will be in even greater demand. The way you work can be the weakest link in your digital transformation strategy, or it can drive a sustained and long-lasting competitive advantage. Don't let the future of work dictate your plans. Define your path forward with Gartner.
Thank you. So I'm just going to stop sharing screen, and then I'd like to show you one other video which also relates to the topic. Okay, and let me just go to share screen.
The work experience has changed for people everywhere. So, what does the future of work look like? It's increasingly hybrid, it's flexible and supportive, it's technology enabled, and it unlocks human ingenuity and the ability to be productive anywhere. Accenture surveyed more than 9,000 workers globally to understand what they need to be successful. What drives productivity and wellness for people varies depending on where they work. We learned that many people want a hybrid model. People want to be on-site, to have easier access to technology, to collaborate with colleagues, and to benefit from consistent routines. People want to be remote to feel safer, enjoy a better quality of life, and have the freedom to take productive breaks. But to enable this, leaders must redesign work to benefit all types of people. So, what can employers do to help workers be productive anywhere? Give people autonomy and freedom. Enable them to learn future skills. Reimagine roles and structures through modern HR practices. And care for their holistic well-being. Welcome to the future of work. It's about people being productive anywhere, and it begins today.
Okay, thank you. I hope that you found value in those two short videos. What I'd like to do before we proceed, perhaps if you go to the chat function, I would love to hear from you and just the sort of responses that are coming to mind right now. How do you feel about the content that came through in the two videos? Are you in this position? Do you find yourself affected in terms of your workplace? If you can just click on the chat and just share with us very briefly. And then after that, we're going to launch a few polls just to determine where everybody is at. And once we are done with that, Charlotte McQueen will be joining us for the presentation. So if I could just ask everybody, please go to the chat function and just share with us your reflections, your thoughts that came through as you watch the two videos. I'm just checking the chat function. While I'm waiting for that, let me get to the polls. Okay, thank you, Tabani. So please, I'd like you to go ahead with your comments in the chat function because it's quite wonderful to see what the collective responses are. So for now, we are going to be launching a few polls just to get a sense of where the group is at. So I'm going to launch the first one. And Faria, can you just please confirm for me? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So everyone, go ahead, please, and select the options that are relevant for you. Just going to give it a few more seconds so that everyone can respond. Another 5 seconds. Okay, I think we have everyone's responses in. So I'll just end this poll and I'm going to share the results with you. Farah, once again, are you able to see the results?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So everyone, based on the responses from everyone that's with us, 56% are currently working at home, 13% at the office, and 31% home and office. So majority are still working at home. So I'll just, and what I'm going to do is, if you can just give me a chance, I'm also going to save the results so that we can reflect on it later. So once again, 56% are still working at home. So that's interesting to note. So I'm just going to stop sharing the results and then move on to the next one. And in the meantime, please go on with the comments as well, because it's wonderful. And even as you are looking at the results, please share your reflections, your thoughts as we proceed. Okay, I'm launching the next one. And for this one, you are welcome to select multiple options as well. Okay. Let me just give it another 10 seconds. A few more need to vote. Okay. So once again, let me end the poll and let's share the results of this one. And perhaps we can take a bit of time to reflect on it. Father, can you please confirm that you can see the results?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, thank you for that. So an overwhelming 81% have said that the current work arrangements make them feel satisfied. 6% said anxious, so that's one. Another one concerned about my future. 2 have indicated that they're feeling isolated and disconnected. And just over half also finding that they are more productive. So once again, quite an interesting one in terms of how the current work arrangements are working for you. So if you give me a second, once again, just to please take a screenshot, because Charlotte will also be referring to these results. Okay. And again, I welcome you and encourage you to please add in comments in the chat box for us in terms of having a look at these results. How do you feel about it? Does it resonate? Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next one. Okay, and we'll go to the third one. Okay, the third poll has to do with resilience. So I've launched it and I'm looking forward to your responses. Okay, seems that most people have voted. So let me end the poll and once again share the results with you. 88% have indicated that they are resilient, that they believe that they are resilient. And 18% have indicated that they are unsure. Okay, so once again, something to consider. Basically how the workplace and the pandemic affected everyone in terms of your resilience levels. Thank you. Let's go to the next one. 4 has to do with adaptability. So I'm sure you've heard as well, a lot of the buzzwords since March 2020 have to do with resilience and adaptability. Okay, so do you believe that you are adaptable and that you've been able to adapt to changing working conditions? Okay, everybody has voted. So with this one, It's 100%. Everyone agrees that they are adaptable and that they are able to adapt to changing working conditions. So that's also quite a positive one. Okay, I'm just taking the screenshot and then we'll get back just a few more. Okay, stop sharing results. Okay, another aspect of the pandemic and also all the changing working conditions has to do with support as well. And of course, while we are answering these questions for ourselves, I think it's important to also reflect on our employees. If we are managers and leaders, whether our employees are able to respond in the same way that we would as well. And if not, what can we as leaders do to help them adjust and get through the crisis? Another 10 seconds just to give you a chance. Okay, I think everyone has voted. So I'm going to end and share the results. So 89%, the majority have indicated that they have a support base, and 2 of the participants have indicated that they don't have a support base. Okay, we've just got 2 more polls to go, and then we'll be handing over to Charlotte. And as I indicated, we will be reflecting on these results as well. Okay, the next one has to do with the global pandemic. How has it affected you? Okay, so I've launched it, and if you can just indicate your responses again. Once again, you have the option to select multiple options. Okay, everyone seems to have voted, so let me share the results again. This is quite interesting. The majority have indicated that the pandemic has provided them the opportunity to have better work arrangements that suit their lives and where they are at currently. So that's 68%. 37% have indicated that it has presented them with better opportunities in terms of work and development. However, we do have a few responses that are also worrying. So some are suffering from burnout, 11%, likewise demotivation. It's also negatively affected people's health, 16%, negatively affected work, family, both at 5%, but 53% have indicated that at the end of the day, they've come out stronger. And I think that's also a key indication how we respond to the crisis. And that's where adaptability and resilience come in once again. Okay, we're almost reaching the end of the polls, but I do hope that it's of value for you. Also just to reflect on yourself, where you're at, and for the group as well. Okay, and number 7 is a fairly quick one. Your organization's leadership. Have they helped you to embrace the new norm? Right, and I'll end it. And it seems that fairly positive. Leadership has prioritized workers and their well-being during this time. 39% said yes, leadership helped them to embrace the norm. However, we are also seeing one response in the way of no, and 2 others indicating that a leadership is mostly concerned with the bottom line, profits, and sustainability of the business. So thank you everyone for your responses, and I'll hand over to Charlotte at this point, and we will save the last poll for right at the end. So Charlotte, I'll hand over to you. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to your session.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, colleagues. I hope you can hear me and maybe you can see me. I'm going to move this iPad to a different spot so I can be a little bit more visible. I hope that works for everybody. Thank you for the poll. I think we have taken quite a good learning from all of the information that has been shared today by the feedback you have given. And we have seen a balanced indication of companies that are looking at bottom line and companies that are really giving care. What is encouraging is the fact that managers tried their best. Today, we're going to look at the new normal and the fact that it's not what it used to be, and the workplace ain't what it used to be, and our homes ain't what they used to be. Maybe on to the first slide. While I'm giving that context, I just want to reflect on my own company on the slide on agenda. In my own company, because we're a manufacturing company, it's a company that the new normal has remained the same for other people. I'll give an example. We have about 31,000 employees across the world, but most of our employees, up to 90% of our employees, are actually in the manufacturing side, in the industrial side of our organization. Their new normal is not that they work from home. They were regarded as essential services because of alcohol and petrol and a whole lot of other products that we produce across the world. So our employees remained at work, and also the value chain is a value chain that was said to be essential. So what has since happened is that if you go to the workplace now, we have people that don't see each other that used to work together. So the shifts we had to separate the shifts where other groups meet and other groups don't meet. So the new normal, even when you don't work from home, you are still working from the office, is very difficult and is very different for our employees. The home work home, there's already be blurring. In the past, we used to say we need a work-life balance. Right now, we need a life-work balance because our homes have become our workplace and our workplace have intruded into our homes. The emerging workplace that you're going to talk about in the few slides I have, we have reorganized our workplaces. We have reorganized what we do. We are now working from home, and sometimes it's very difficult for other people to rearrange their homes. We have hybrid work arrangements where others are at home and others are in the factory, others are at home and others are in the office, or the very person has got a split work relationship arrangements, 80% at work, 20 at home, 50-50. That hybrid work arrangement comes in very different dimensions. What is important here from an employer side is implication for employee value proposition. For instance, we are going through a vaccination program. Will our medical aids make us pay for the vaccination? Will we extend our leave policies? Will we look at the way that we treat employees that are on a COVID-related leave? Will we look at people that have to take care of family members? So we as employers and we as managers, we have to look at what is it that we've put out as benefits and what is it that we've put out to support our employees in their value proposition. And also the jobs have changed, and in some organizations and the employees had to exit. The work skills that we have now go beyond just knowing what you're doing, but knowing what you're doing, but not doing it at the desk that you used to do it from, at the workplace that you used to do it from. You no longer have a situation where you can walk down the passage and talk to someone. The leadership capabilities and management style had to pivot very quickly. We as managers and leaders had to learn very, very quickly different styles of managing productivity and so on. Social isolation continues, whether it's private or is at work. The disrupted work life I've spoken about. The social system and adjustment of wellness and resilience and home and family has also been blurred. So in the next slide, I'm going to walk through what is it that we can focus on as managers and what is it that we can focus on as employees. But before we do that, let's look at what remote working has done. Some people say bosses still want bums on seats, but I'm sure the pandemic has told us that we cannot do that. And then if you look on the right, there's a LinkedIn article. The gentleman there, I think it is a gentleman, Adam O'Daniel, if that person identifies as a gentleman, he says, I want to tell you a story about work and family. Today, my son's 7th birthday party with his friends after school. This evening, a senior executive texted me to ask for status on the project in the busiest and most turbulent week in the decade of our company. I apologized for a lapse in communication and told him I left early for the birthday, but I'd rather get to it as soon as possible. He told me to stop, to finish it tomorrow, to never put him or his request ahead of anything my sons needed from their daddy. I'm tearing up to type this because the guy literally has billions of dollars of loans coming in the door that he'll be accountable for. My job is to help him and make his team successful. And he just told me to go back to my 7-year-old birthday party and worry about work tomorrow. A lot of people say family first. That's someone who lives it. When you look at that, it's not only a situation where the company is doing well. It's a company that is going through turbulency. It's very busy. There are billions of dollars of loans that the company is facing. But the manager showed extreme sense of care to this family, to this 7-year-old, and to the dad of the 7-year-old. And these are ways in which we can say, how does your culture manifest? One of the things that are very interesting is that if you didn't have a culture of care before the COVID pandemic, I don't know whether we will be able to live it. So in the next slide, we want to look at how is remote leadership going to work, and how is remote work impacting leadership? Hybrid work requires change in management style. Organizational goals are met with efficiency while we actually continue to have an engaged workforce and take care of an employee well-being and caring, like you've just seen, and have a high-performing teams that are empowered and included. I can only imagine how much effort the manager is going to get out of Daniel and how much support Daniel is going to get from his family with regards to that employer. If Daniel is saying, I'm working late, his family is going to say, you do that because you were there at the 7th birthday party. So what about team performance, culture and well-being, and work capacity? These are the 3 things I'd like us to have a dialogue about later. The first one is virtual work introduces a level of flexibility. So as a manager and as a team, we've got to stay flexible with each other. We saw how flexible that manager is. We need to change our mindset about what it takes to perform. We need to manage inputs and manage output and not necessarily manage who's at the desk. It cannot work if you're a manager trying to find out if people have logged in. Trust and transparency, you've got to make sure that you extend even more trust, and you as an employee, you've got to remain transparent as to what you are engaged with and what you are working on. The most important is that we give each other support and we give each other feedback. In terms of culture and well-being, we've seen how a few of us said they had burnout, there's a little bit of disengagement, we all feel a little bit of isolation and disconnect, and also a little bit of elevated trust, because that's all we can do. The most important thing we must do for each other is to create a sense of belonging and a sense of inclusion. So if you're having a meeting and you realize somebody's not there, you dial them in. If something that's happening in the organization, you try to make sure that as many people as possible know. And what it does, it means that now you have even an overload of emails because everybody's copying everybody. So how do we manage the overload of emails? One of the things that we need to do, which I have introduced in my organization, is to have a pause station every 14 days. It happens on a Friday. There is no agenda on that pause station. All the people that report to me stop and we just talk about whatever we need to talk about. And sometimes you find that when people come that report to you, they come to you in the 30 minutes Zoom meeting, 25 minutes, 25 minute submissions that they need to do through Zoom or through Teams meeting or whatever a platform we're using. They actually don't have time to talk to you about their families. But when you pause and you have that 35 or 45 minutes coffee session, it's still virtual. The people actually can breathe in and breathe out. And you, as a manager, you have to pay attention. Who is giving a deep sigh of relief? Who is actually looking like they want to say something, but they cannot say it? Who is talking about somebody in their teams that's not coping? And that's a platform that has nothing to do with work, has something to do with the wellness. And it's a culture of inclusion and a culture of a sense of, I'd like to hear where you are and I'd like to understand how you're doing. Virtually at scene means that even when you don't see people, you create time. One of the things that I've introduced, I've asked my teams, if you stay within protocol and you can manage the fact that you come into the office, you make your independent decision to come into the office, do come into the office and share time together. Work capacity, intentionally staying connected, make sure you don't give added responsibilities, make sure that everybody feel that they're well equipped, leaders also get skills, support each other, and all of us focus on team performance. On to the next slide, which I'm going to be brief and we go into breakouts, is that how do you then as a leader develop effectiveness for a changed workplace? Have a level of flexibility, have empathy, drive connection, have emotional intelligence, and make sure that your emotional intelligence come before your call for high productivity. Have crucial constructive dialogues and conversations with your team, one-on-one, groups, teams. Make sure that your teams are supported, give and receive feedback, and also give a lot of positive feedback because people are already feeling down. And if you have to give a feedback that requires adjustment of behavior, adjustment of productivity, find out first whether that person is in a position to receive that feedback. When you don't see people, you don't know how they feel, you don't know how they're going through. When you see them, most of the time, it's easier to identify whether they are going through stress. So the leadership competencies are of empathy, of connectivity, and ensuring that you are able to give and receive feedback and you maintain conversations. In terms of mindset shift, it has been the biggest challenge for leaders that are used to seeing people in the passages and at their desk. How do you ensure that you're fully present as a manager? Make sure that your teams and your employees can reach you. Ensure that you provide other ways of productivity, inclusive culture, maximize benefits of the hybrid work. If people are saying, I work better in the morning, have meetings with them in the morning. If people say, I work better in the afternoon, give them the benefit of the doubt and then force them to actually be productive at 7 a.m. We've had quite big laughs in my team about how I don't answer any calls before 7 a.m. because I cannot be held accountable for things I cannot remember, because I can only have my bright mind a little later in the morning. And somebody said, don't talk to me after 7 p.m. So we're even beginning to need to understand each other a little bit more because we are open to have conversations that are ensuring that we're all fully present and we maximize the benefit of hybrid work. Make sure that your employees in your teams have different infrastructure that they need. Some employees need Wi-Fi, some employees cannot work from home, they have to come into the office, be flexible and provide that infrastructure as required. Keep pulse on employee engagement, make sure that you check on it. Manage talent risks, who looks like they're no longer with us, that they require some dialogue on where they are in their careers, in their work, and empathy over efficiency. Empathy over efficiency if you are a manager with people that work for you and with you. And also allow a little bit of innovation with remote work dynamics. If people come and say, oh, can we try Slack? Approach your IM department and say, can we try Slack? I hear in another company they're using it. If you hear in another company they're giving free masks, approach your CSI department. Can you have masks for families because they actually is an extension of the workplace now? And leadership capacity, make sure that you are not overburdened yourself as a leader. Can we go to maybe an introduction of the dialogues? Because we'd like to hear how you are doing in your workplace. I'm not going to go through a lot of the work comments, but when we get to these questions, before I get to the questions, there has been research that came out on the gender impact of the work from home. And that's the ones, this one. The remote work gender gap and the impact of remote work on specifically on women. We do know, and we've known that women are actually underrepresented. Most of the work in the household, which sometimes is called unpaid work by the other people, is done by female. There is a male-dominated in office workplace, and gender equality still needs to be attended to. The cost of working from home has potentially, in some cases, been seen to be higher for women than is for men. So when you have those kind of gender spread in your organization, pay attention to whether people in their homes have had either to extend help, to extend their own contribution at home, or actually to find ways to lessen a weight on themselves based on the gender gaps in those families. Run seminars on how do you share work, how do you deal with gender biases and gender roles at home, and how do you make sure that people understand the pressure that the work from home has put on the different genders. And sometimes some of these genders are even with a single parenting, which is a single male parenting, that has become very, very onerous on single parents, regardless of what gender they are. So the dynamics of the home has come into the workplace. That's basically what this means. And we need to pay attention as managers. So on the conversation that we are going to go now, we're going to break into small conversation rooms. And then we can then start a dialogue. And also at that point, myself and Prof will take your questions. These are the 3 questions you're gonna ask. I'm going to ask Prof to put them on the chat room and also to make sure that they are available. So please, we're going to move you into small rooms. Take 2 of these questions and have a dialogue. You have about 9 minutes. And then on the 10th minute, we come back. What is your biggest learning from the global pandemic about yourself and the workplace? What are you going to do differently? And also, please, because we are colleagues here, share 1 nugget of wisdom of how you navigated the workplace during the pandemic. Your biggest learning, what are you going to do differently, and your nugget of wisdom. Let's go into the chat rooms, into the breakout rooms for about 9 minutes, and we will be back to have a dialogue and a conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. So everyone, I'm going to be sending you to the breakout rooms now. Please just click join. And I'll also share these questions with you. As Charlotte indicated, please choose 2 out of the 3, and we'll give you about 9 to 10 minutes, and then we'll bring you back. If anybody is left in a room by themselves, please come back to the main room. Thank you. Have a good discussion.
Why do I have to work? So thank you so much for that. It really is great learnings, and also affirming the fact that sometimes you don't know what's going on and you just have to admit it. And also being open and honest with each other in the team. That's excellent, and staying safe and making sure that wellness is critical and important for everyone. Great stuff. Can we hear from another team, or can we take a question from someone?
Room number 2. Can I give feedback about our discussion? I was in room number 2 with Renelwe and Claudette. If you look at our discussions, I think 3 themes emerged. One was resilience, one was culture fitness, and last one was agility. So I'll start with the resilience. Some of us, like myself, having been exposed to the extreme of what the pandemic did to workforce, and having been to deal with the subordinates who tested positive and dealing with their families in terms of relaying the message, that brought out the psychologist out of you. You've been a typical leader dealing with production. So something about you just got, I said, taken out. So that now, having to deal with that, having to adjust yourself, having to go home, relay what drew your energy and re-energize and come back again. That showed how one can be resilient, me in particular. So that's one thing that I learned and which was brought about by this crisis, and which is a positive from that respect, because I still managed to keep the balance of meeting the business expectations in terms of the profits and all that, and yet managed to be engaged and be there for the shop floor or the workforce. Right. In terms of the cultural fit, something nice there is typically what emerged or got triggered by the pandemic about some new values which fit in terms of culture. So one had to adjust now to these new values, which one didn't, or one, I'll say, Renule put it nicely. Renule, just remind me how we said it, just wanted to adjust to the new culture in terms of the values before I distort the message.
Thanks, Lucky. My contribution there was that culture fitness got highlighted, whether it's in your personal space or in the workplace, when everything else is stripped away or things are not in your control, then what remains behind is culture fitness, and within that lies in your values, your beliefs, Definitely. Your support structures, and all of that. So that's, for me, is what stood out for me in the pandemic from a personal space as well as in the workplace.
Thanks, my dear. Regarding agility, Claudette's experience was a bit different. Having now to create a platform where her team had to adjust in terms of the new norm, the new systems of working, being there, helping them adjust, not just pull back as a leader, and still allow them to be productive given the new norm. So those were the three themes I think that came through strongly from my team. Unfortunately, we couldn't go to the second one. I just jumped and the countdown was just against me because I was saying I'm changing nothing. All I'm gonna do is to sustain the good that I saw out of myself. Find strategies and ways of sustaining this good thing that I've come to realize about myself.
Excellent.
So that's how far we went, yeah.
Thank you so very much. That's really great. The finding the strength in yourself, making sure that the culture of fitness, whether at home, in yourself, or in the workplace, is surfaced, and ensuring that you then support employees, especially where your employees have been impacted. It has been very hard, and bringing, you said it very nicely, bringing the psychologist in you. Some of the strengths that we actually never knew we had in terms of empathy and care, just, they were brought up by the pandemic, and so much outpouring of care and empathy that flowed into the workplace, and actually made it much easier for a lot of people, even for a lot of us, to embrace the new normal. So we should continue to bring out the best in ourselves in terms of culture fitness at home, in the workplace, and for ourselves. Great input. Prof is asking whether we can drop onto the chat line some of the learnings that we have taken. We've got another group that wants to share from any chat room, or any question or any contribution. I'm going to ask something that any other one?
I'm just checking if group one has any feedback. Neville, Samantha, Tabani.
Where to raise hand?
You can go ahead. You don't have to raise the hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Napoleon.
Thanks, ma'am. Okay. Particularly, I will actually share based on my experience. So, in my view, actually, our job description were kind of like updated or shifted. So we had to quickly learn and adapt new roles at work. And particularly when we work with people, because that was the most critical thing. We had to, and we were living in fear, and also we need to produce and work. So for me, what I've learned is that I can say we take time, or we fail to understand that we still need to work within a certain period of time. Like at work, if I work 8 hours before pandemic, I still need to work 8 hours. So after pandemic, there was no waking hours. Any time was a tea time. So that was affecting the balance of family, academic, and other activities. So I don't know, because of the pressure and the stress that as a country actually we're going through, and still having that fear. But even now, I don't think other people still learned that. But we still need to try to make sure that we balance the equation of making rules that we work a certain hours, so that we can also do other jobs. Because now we learn to be even teachers. If we have a siblings, now you're also at home. So it was a lot of work actually that needs to happen. And even kids were relying on you on things that you don't know. And that time, you also have to learn to ask. What I learned is that you also need to rely on other people who have specialty in particular. Make sure that the education of the people close to you is balanced, because you can't know everything and we're not good with others. That's what I can share.
That's excellent. Build a social infrastructure. And I've always believed in a social infrastructure. Build a social infrastructure, be realistic about what you can achieve, and be kind to yourself, and make sure that you balance all aspects of your life. Some people are saying, their families are saying they see them less, because as soon as they wake up, they go into that room, they close the door, they sit behind the laptop, and they never see them. In the past, we used to knock off. Now we no longer knock off. So we need to be very, very disciplined and make sure that our families, our academic studies, our social systems, our social lives, limited as it is, remain intact. And also be deliberate about setting out certain things. I know one colleague that says, I'm going to be home at 5:45. Even if you set up a meeting, I'm going to leave that meeting. If I'm at home, I'll switch off 2 minutes before 5:45. If I'm in the office, I'm going to make sure that I build in travel time. And he actually says that. The other one that I have done is that no meeting of mine goes beyond 45 minutes. If we cannot achieve it in 45 minutes, then we need to actually be thinking that, is that a meeting or a workshop? Because if you go into an hour, you find that you don't even have 15 minutes to stand up and breathe and take exercises and walk and grab a cup of tea. So definitely we have to build those barriers and build those boundaries that travel to from work used to give us, and was used to be knockoff. Now we have to go back and make sure that we have knockoff time. That's excellent, and thank you so much for the contribution. Prof, how many rooms do we have?
One more question from, I think it's Sane, if I'm pronouncing correctly. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, just maybe to add to Napoleon's point or to ask a question. So as a small business owner, during the pandemic, I found myself working out of guilt. I was so scared to rest or to take any time off because I thought that if I stopped working or stopped trying to be innovative, because now I'm responsible for my staff, and if I don't keep working, then if they lose their jobs or if we lose clients. So I just want to know if anyone has any advice on how to deal with that, because I literally was just working for the sake of working, and sometimes my brain was so tired, but I just felt guilty so much that I can't let these people down. I must keep carrying on.
Wow, that's really, really amazing, Sunny. And we really take our heads off from small business. And it's some small businesses didn't make it. Some were really going through a tough time. And some held on like you did and worked nonstop, because you had, all of a sudden it felt like the burden you were carrying has doubled or tripled. And you looked at these people and you knew that if it goes wrong, then it might not actually come back as it used to. So you had a sense of responsibility that you always had, but it just sort of came about to be a little bit more elevated and a little bit more intense. Anybody wants to share? Any person that runs a small business that felt the same guilt and the same worry of taking accountability for other families? Okay, I'm going to share with you because I sit on the group executive. Tabani, I can see your question says, how do you strike a balance with limited resources? Let me just go back to Sane. Sane, you own your business, the people report to you, and you are accountable. The buck stops with you. If it all goes well, it's on your heart and your shoulders. If it doesn't go well, it's on your heart and your shoulders. I work in a company where I'm in the group executive, and you find that the same feeling of worry of families rest on your heart. And when you see that the company is going through trouble and you realize it's going to have impact on jobs, you do not sleep. Because it might impact the people in your team, it might even impact yourself. But also because I'm an HR manager and I'm sitting in the group executive, just watching all that and saying, are all these families going to be impacted? That's very hard, but it's harder for you always as a small business owner, because you are everything to your business. Okay, and then there was a question that was raised, and it was a question that was raised that says, how do you balance with limited resources? Anybody wants to go in? How do you balance with limited resources? Anybody that wants to share? How do you strike a balance with limited revenue during lockdowns and well-being of key talent? The assumption is that you earn and keep the health of both the company, by extension, the employees. What comes first? I'm going to share a storyline. When the company is in trouble and it's a company that has got lenders where you borrowed money, or shareholders where you need to engage them. Let's start with the lenders. The lenders are banks. And when you owe banks and the banks are closing on you, you need to engage the banks and make sure that you are, I think it was Sane, or it was one of the colleagues that said, always tell the truth. Always make sure that everybody understands what's going on. If you do that, you will bring everybody with. The second one is the fact that you need to keep whoever owns the company understanding what's going on, Tabani, but keep your employees understanding how they can contribute and how we can all work together to save. When it comes to everything, when the days are better, then you go back to your employees and say, the days are getting better, and this is what I'd like to extend to you. But you need to actually make the employees aware that you had borrowed money, and so the lenders are going to be taken care of first, and then you come to your shareholders, and then you come to your employees, and then you come to your community if you need to take care of your community. But stay open-minded and also listen out to what employees can contribute to save the company. What comes first? It's a very difficult question to answer, because you need the employees to make sure that you produce and earn and then pay the lenders, but you need the lenders to also keep your company afloat. So it's a balancing act. I hope that helps, Tabani. And Sandile says the importance of emotional and mental health proved to be extremely important. Being people focused as opposed to being trust driven. Absolutely, Sandile. And as you can see, Nozodumo also supports that. I'm going to be closing out. If somebody, two people can make final comments, and I'm going to hand over to Prof in the last 10 minutes of the conversation. You can post your questions on the chat room in the meantime, and then I'll hand over to Prof to close for us. And thank you very much for the engagement.
Do we have
Prof,
anyone else from the breakout rooms that we didn't hear from yet? Room 3, Farah's group, would you like to briefly share with us before we close?
Harmony?
Hi, sorry. Look, I think I would share just the point that I shared within my group, which is more answering the question around, I suppose, wisdom. I think as a manager of people, it's important to be able to know the individual needs of your team. I have found that, sort of a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't quite work in this environment. Well, certainly in this type of, home working environment. You need to know, I think managers need to know who are the introverts, who are the extroverts, and need to be able to detect who's thriving in this type of pandemic environment versus those that are struggling. And with that information, effectively respond to the needs of individuals. So I mentioned on my group that, in a sports world, you often hear the phrase of playing the player. And I think for me, that has been very important in this type of environment. Understand the needs and understand how best you can equip, individuals rather than purely thinking as purely thinking from a team perspective. Not sure if anybody else has had that experience, but that has certainly been something that's worked for me and my environment.
Thank you so much. Those were very valuable points. Before I take over, maybe Charlotte, because some valuable points came out there about personality as well, and introvertedness and extrovertedness. Maybe Charlotte just wants to say a few words and then I'll close.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just on personality, a lot of times when somebody is outspoken and make themselves available, speak well, we tend to think that they're actually extroverts. And your point you've just made is that understand people of who they are and understand their motive, understand their levels of energy, understand what makes them work better, understand their needs. There is no other time in the history of management where the person has become the center of the work like we have just seen now. So the human being have become the center of the workplace and the center of the family. And we have to take that as the humanization of the workplace. And it is only a boost that can get better as society takes the play post the pandemic, if there's ever be a time that will be post the pandemic. We stay hopeful. And thank you very much for this time. I really appreciate it. My closing remarks are that we are more resilient than we ever thought, and we've become better managers as we learn from the pandemic, and we've become better team members as well. And let's continue to be empathetic to everybody around ourselves, in our families, the society, and specifically because of this in our workplace. Because society and workplace have just blurred, and we don't know where the society starts and where the workplace ends. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the dialogue. Over to you, Prof.
Okay, thank you so much, Charlotte. That was really wonderful presentation with extremely relevant points. And then, of course, all the discussions that came out of the breakout rooms were valuable, as well as all the comments that we are seeing. So thank you, everyone. Charlotte's done an amazing job. I don't want to add on too much, except just to bring it back again. Based on what I was hearing from Charlotte, I just picked up on a few key points, and it resonates a lot with the feedback that we're getting from the breakout rooms. And again, it's coming back to leadership. And if I'm picking up on the comments, it's more now than ever we need to be able to focus on people and the task, especially that we're not seeing people and they're battling perhaps with this new reality, the new norm that perhaps we think is normal, but it's not. It's emotions involved. We saw people earlier expressing their views about burnout and perhaps needing a bit of work in terms of resilience. And we also seeing perhaps the changing nature of communication. Leaders need to be more mindful about how they communicate, especially when it's us sitting perhaps behind the screen and we're not in a room with our staff. So perhaps we may not hear what we need to hear or even see. So there's non-verbal communication as well. And there's this need, I think, for leaders as well to be able to read a situation and definitely to be present and observe and perhaps possibly even speak less as well. Just pick up on what people are not saying. And of course, the need to be connected to really offer support in a number of ways to staff, encourage dialogue. Charlotte also spoke about mindset change, not just for leaders, but I think for employees, for everybody in the organization, especially if we consider the systems thinking perspective. So to leave no one behind as we face this new norm and once again change. And I think the key point about the gender gap deserves a lot of attention. Perhaps again, we may not be as mindful of the realities that staff are facing. And I think there again, perhaps it's the topic of diversity, what different people are experiencing in their workplace, which now is at home, so the home office. Or it could perhaps be hybrid, but it's just the challenges of adapting. And again, time management was emphasized. And I like this concept of culture fitness, not only in the organization, but ourselves as well. How adaptable are we really? I think those are the key points that stood out for me, as well as boundaries, the need to set boundaries. Just because we're at home doesn't mean we can have meetings at any odd hour, that we work indefinitely. And then also, I think, again, the multiple roles of leaders and managers. So that support that you need to offer staff that perhaps, as somebody said, we almost like counselors and psychologists now. So do we really give our staff and employees everything that they need? And then the last few points that emerged as well from the discussions, which were important, were that it's important to not just have this one size fits all style of leadership, to really engage the situation and see what's needed. And I think for me, it's really the key point about personality. And of course, as a leader, just being present. And then I think some key things that, just in closing, I think the research also very much seems to correlate with what Charlotte shared, as well as with the group's feedback. The need for change management skills, so helping leaders as well as people to be adaptable, to be flexible, to be resilient, to embrace change because the pandemic hasn't ended. Also, the need to encourage collaboration, to avoid the silo mentality. And then, of course, as a leader, I think a lot more listening, engaging people, having courage as a leader, perhaps to say that I don't have all the answers, but I'm here to engage the task and the people. And I think we're also seeing the need for strategic leadership skills. So thinking of the future while still being present. And of course, thinking about the threats, the opportunities, the change, and how do you help people balance everything. And of course, again, it comes back to work-life balance. We heard people talking about the changes, emotions, resilience, technology, homeschooling. Somebody mentioned that as well, the household responsibilities. And then in terms of research, we're seeing that there's a lot of emphasis on, in terms of companies going forward, they need to consider the nature of the work. Do people need to be at work, or can it be done at the office? So therefore, we'd be considering the interaction with customers. We'd be looking at things like office space. A lot of companies are cutting down. The impact of that on other businesses. And then the question, of course, would be, do we need to have so many meetings? The 8-hour workday or the 9-hour workday, what does that mean? And of course, Charlotte spoke about this idea that just because we're not at a desk, what does that mean for productivity? And then of course, people could be battling, they could be missing their colleagues, collaboration could be an issue. And of course, do they have all the tools that they need to succeed in terms of working at home? So I think and then other key points are looking at mental health, health policies, autonomy, leadership, digital leadership, the policies and structures of the organization. Do they have the right plans in place? And just seeing basically what is it that staff need to succeed in this new norm. And basically weighing up the pros and the cons. And as a leader, just being very mindful of where people are at. And I think just in terms of key takeaways, probably it's overall to focus on leadership, organizational culture, the how do we do things around here, motivating staff, change management, team leadership, and I think just having that supportive role as well as a leader. Okay, I'll hand over to Charlotte. Thank you so much. And then back to Farah.
Thank you very much, Prof. That is very, very insightful. And also it's very encouraging that what we are going through and what we have learned and what we need to learn, it's supported by research that has just emerged. The pandemic has been one long lesson for all of us and for all of humanity and for all of workplace. And for you and the university and the work that you do, bringing this together for us and affirming and confirming that we're on the right track is really, really encouraging. I'll give over to Farah to close out. Maybe if anybody would like to make 2 or 3 comments through Farah, but over to you, Farah, to make the last comments, the 3 minutes that you're left. Take 1 or 2 comments from the participants and then close out. Thank you very much. I will stop at this. Over to you, Farah.
Thank you so much, Charlotte and Prof. Always, it is such a pleasure to just have you ladies share with us, you know, the wisdom, the experience. It is truly a blessing for us. Any last comments from anybody?
You know, talking after such a powerful message from 2 giants, I wonder if I'll dilute, but I just want to build up slightly on what Kamini said. I hope I'm pronouncing it well, Kamini. You know what? One thing that I may share: if you engage with employees or anybody just for sake of engaging, you know, it just dilutes the power of that or the impact of engaging, because people can see through you. You just coming just to tick. No, you just want to talk to them and that's it. One thing I learned, you know, engaging purposefully. People down there are of different strengths and different talents. There are those that I'll call them underdogs, the quiet ones. When you engage with everyone and purposefully, like wanting to engage or know them beyond just their names, you end up now even having those guys that are like underdogs opening up and giving you solutions which you're not even aware of in how the business or some of the problems that the business is facing. So I'm trying to say, answers that don't just reside with those that are like talkers. Even those people that are quite introverts, underdogs, whatever they do, but for you to get them, you have to create that atmosphere where you open up, they are free to see that, but this guy is not a monster as we've seen before, or as we thought or perceived him like before. So at least the pandemic has created that environment where we come out of our comfort zones in terms of offices, we reach out, and when we reach out and engaging with the purpose, we end up getting even answers from those that were like forgotten guys in the team. That's all I wanted to say, Farah, building up on what Kamini said.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lucky. Thanks for that. So in closing, I just want to let everybody know that these two ladies are really friends of the BMF. They have, from I think it's a year now, that they have shown such commitment and support of the BMF and for the leadership issues that actually exist for all of us. And Charlotte ran out of a meeting with her CEO to be with us today. So Charlotte, we are so grateful, and we are looking forward to next month. So just to let everybody know that Charlotte and Prof have graciously committed to giving us some of their time every month to discuss these issues that are really hurting us out there as leaders and as employees. So please look out for those adverts. I've put our coordinator's email address, Bongiwe, in the chat. If you have a comment about our sessions, please feel free to send it through to Bongiwe. If you have an idea on something that's bothering you out there, share it with us, please. Let us open it up. This platform is for you, so that you can come here and we can actually open these issues up and discuss them, so that we know that we're not sitting in our spaces going through this alone, because we're not alone. You know, there's 20 something of us here all experiencing the same thing, but we need a platform to talk about it. So this platform is for you. So tell us what you want, please, and we will do our best to get it to you in the form that you would like it. So ladies, Charlotte and Prof, again, thank you so much. We're looking forward to next month as well. So on that, I just have one last announcement. About two weeks ago, we had our AGM, our KZN provincial AGM. It was an elective AGM, and just to keep everybody totally informed, there is a new KZN leadership. I am the new provincial chairperson. Lucky, thanks Charlotte. Lucky is the new deputy provincial chairperson. And Vasi Govender, who's the provincial secretary, couldn't be with us today. And our provincial treasurer, Tandeka Ngwenya, she couldn't be with us today. But I'm sure on the sessions to come, you guys will definitely meet them. So thank you, ladies. And to all of you, please, you know, this is actually wouldn't be a success if you guys didn't make the time. Really,
Absolutely.
it wouldn't. It would not be a success. And thank you to all of you. And I really hope, I've seen some familiar names. Sandile, my leader, I hope you're coming back to us. I've seen some others from out of KZN. So it's wonderful to see the support coming from some of our members out of KZN. So thank you again to everyone. And we're looking forward to next month. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for the people that are connected from outside of KZN. Congratulations to the new leadership. We look forward to continuing working with you. And thanks for having us. You always take things away from this and great learning. Thank you. Have a lovely evening and see you soon, and stay well and take care. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.